Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Blancpain 50 Fathoms reference 5015, one of the iconic dive watches historically and of the modern era. You can see and you can purchase this example on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch with additional accessories included in the sale, high resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this Blancpain reference 5015. Now there's an important reason why I emphasize the reference. The 5015, though not the first of the modern 50 Fathoms, that debuted back in 1998, but the 2007 to present 5015 is, for many collectors, the 50 Fathoms. Short of going full vintage with a mil-spec or a Tornek Rayville, this is as good as it gets. 45 millimeters in high-polished steel with a 1315 5-day automatic movement. It is the Cadillac of dive watches. One of the most compact 45 millimeter watches you'll ever wear. One of the true pioneers in luxury and I may even say utilitarian horology, as it was the original modern standard dive watch. This year we're celebrating 65 years since the original 1953 Blancpain 50 Fathoms that started not just the line but the entire genre. Now on my wrist, this has always been a big watch in nominal size, but a compact watch in terms of dimensions across the wrist. From lug to lug, this 45 millimeter round watch measures a very reasonable 50.6 millimeters, meaning it's actually a little bit more compact across the wrist than most standard 40 millimeter Rolex sports watches on bracelets with solid end links. It's thick, but I find that you can wear it under a sweater, a blazer, or a sport jacket cuff. The timepiece is 15.5 millimeters thick. It's not particularly rounded at the bezel, but again, I haven't found it to be a practical impediment to formal attire. As long as you're not trying to fit it underneath something like exceptionally tight French cuffs, you should be good to go. Again, you're going to have more trouble with the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore 44 or an Hublot Big Bang of any description. Now, the watch also has a very high-grade strap that's become something of a selling point and an iconic design element in its own right, the sailcloth strap. Very tough. It's a textile with a bolstered center, a monotone stitch, and a very supple rubber inlay on the back. Now, it could normally be a very abrasive material if laid against the skin uncoated, but this rubber ensures that the wrist always has a buffer between the virtually indestructible textile and the skin of the forearm. Simple pin buckle, easy to use, nicely polished. Again, traditional low in profile. On the fly, you'll appreciate its flexibility, and screws used to mount the strap to the case. Now, you can also order the X71 bracelet, which is as richly appointed and beautifully made as the watch itself. And you can change yourself, but you're going to need the proper keys to remove the screws. This is the better way to do it on a big, heavy, valuable sports watch. And once you're talking about a 5-figure dive watch, we're definitely into the realm of luxury. I would rather see this than spring bars on every single expensive watch. I don't care if it's a little bit out of character for a dress watch. I don't care if it takes a little bit longer to swap on a sports watch. It's the right thing to do. You can see the Blancpain company marquee on the flank, all of high polish, transitioning to one of the best bezels in the business then and now. 2007 saw the arrival of this combination of bezel to dial ratio, and it's just about perfect. It's got a chunkiness that's charming and historically evocative, but what really sets it apart is the use of sapphire. Cambered sapphire, not flat as you'll find on some IWC and Bremont sports watches, but cambered and rounded like the crystal itself. Much more expensive to execute. It also creates a richness and a magnification effect, such that it almost looks as you're viewing the calibrations and numerals of the bezel through a dewdrop. Gorgeous gloss, and with the protection afforded by the sapphire cap, we can have a fully luminescent Luminova coated bezel that you can view in its entirety at night, because the Luminova can't be attacked by scratches and scuffs in the presence of the sapphire. Now, you'll note that the sapphire over the dial is also cambered and rounded. Again, it helps to create a little bit of the off-axis distortion like what you would have seen on the vintage watches, which featured acrylic caps to the bezels and acrylic crystals. Now, continuing inward, you can see that the modern 50 Fathoms is executed to a higher degree than the original. There's a slightly pronounced inner dial disc, but the features that set the dial apart are the huge Luminova-coated white gold diamond-style indices and Arabic numerals. Likewise, the hands of white gold are robustly luminescent. You can see this watch easily in any light. There's a very discreet little monotone date disc poking out at 4:30. It's there when you want it, disappears when you don't. And of course, all of the modern standards are represented. The caliber inside owes nothing to antiquity. It is the 1315, 35 jewels, 3 main spring barrels, 120 hours or 5 days of power reserve. It's also free sprung for toughness and features hacking seconds so you can stop the seconds hand, synchronize to a reference time, and a quick set so you can rapidly cycle the date. Now there are some peripherals worth mentioning. It also has a soft iron inner cage surrounding the movement, so you have a true hand-finished high horology movement, and it's shielded not just against water to 300 meters, but against magnetism, pretty much anything up to high-powered speakers, subwoofers, or an MRI. Those you'll still want to avoid. Now the bezel doesn't just look good, it's an absolute pleasure to actuate. Listen to these rifle bolt cracks. I don't know if that's like the bolt of a rifle or the crack of the round, but it's pleasing. It's distinct. You can hear it. You can feel it. The detents are crisp and sharp and substantial. Although it's a unidirectional rotating bezel that you can line up with the minute hand to time a 0 to 60 minute interval, nevertheless, you get the sense there's not going to be a whole lot of involuntary movement in either direction. So you're not going to accidentally shorten your dive either. This is a wonderful watch on every level. Formal enough that you could wear it with fine attire, tough enough that you could wear it anywhere in any circumstance, with real history behind it, a great name, a true high horology movement. This is a watch that puts it all together with a bold wrist presence and, nevertheless, a compact stance. This is the big watch that wears small. Pretty close to the perfect sports watch. I'm not going to make the case one way or another. I'm just going to say, if you are bound to the holy trinity of Vacheron, Patek, and Audemars Piguet for your haute de gamme sports watches, or the big three of Breitling, Rolex, and Omega for your mainstream sports watches, consider stepping out of the pack and trying something that is neither nor. Try the Blancpain 50 Fathoms 5015. You won't regret it. See it and own it on our website.